Hi everyone and welcome. Today we're talking about a super important topic. It's one that often gets ignored until, bam, the problems hit us hard. More than 970 million people have mental health problems, and 80% of the time, it all starts with habits we don't even see. Mental health isn't a luxury, it's a basic need. It affects how we feel joy and how we deal with stress. Toxic habits can chip away at our mental strength, like a crumbling wall. Today, I'm going to tell you about 7 of these habits, and I'll give you some easy ways to stop them. Let's break these invisible chains and take charge of our mental health again. Thinking too much. It's like a broken record that keeps skipping, or a hamster that just keeps running and running on its wheel. You keep going over bad thoughts in your head, but you don't really get anywhere with them. This just makes you feel more sad, worried, and super tired in your mind. It's like a bad loop that's really hard to stop. Luckily, there are good ways to fight this really bad habit. One really good way to handle this is by keeping what's called a guided cognitive journal. How it works is you ask yourself specific questions to really look at these thoughts and take them apart. So how do you actually do this? First, figure out exactly what those thoughts are and write them down. Then, find the main feelings that go with these thoughts. Next, check if this worrying thought is actually true or makes sense. The third step is something called cognitive restructuring. This means you work to change that negative way of thinking. There are many good things about this, and you can really feel them. Okay, so the second bad habit we're gonna look at today is when we try to avoid or push down our feelings. It's when we ignore, deny, or try to make light of yucky feelings, or just push them deep down. So, instead of really letting ourselves feel something and work through it, we try to dodge it. This might look like working way too much, or always getting distracted by our phones and computers, or even turning to things like alcohol or stress eating. Sometimes we try to overthink things a lot, just so we don't have to actually feel our emotions. But here's the thing, doing this for a long time doesn't really work, and it can actually be pretty harmful. See, when we push feelings down, they don't just disappear. A lot of times, they come back even stronger. And that can lead to stress that just won't go away, feeling super anxious, and even getting actual aches and pains in your body. So, you know how sometimes we try to push our feelings away? Well, there's a really simple but super powerful trick for that. It's called naming your feelings. And the cool part is, brain science actually backs this up. Basically, it just means finding the right words for what you're feeling. Putting a name to what you're going through actually helps calm your brain down. When we put our feelings into words, a part of our brain called the amygdala calms down. And at the same time, the thinking part of our brain gets more active. Naming a feeling helps to quiet that emotional storm inside you. This helps you handle the feeling better, instead of letting it totally take over. Alright, now let's talk about something called unhealthy perfectionism. It's like always trying for the impossible, because you're scared of failing. This constant pressure turns your hard work into a big source of worry. People going through this often think it's all or nothing. This can lead to feeling anxious, sad, and even burnout. So, to get away from this perfectionism trap, there's a really freeing idea. It's called the good enough way. It's about starting to see yourself in a way that's more real and also a bit kinder. Setting goals you can actually hit instead of just dreaming about things that can't happen is much better for how you feel inside. And when you can say, hey, this is good enough, it really cuts down on stress and helps you feel like you did a good job. This is a way to feel more calm and to like yourself more, just as you are. Now, let's move on to another sneaky habit that can really bring us down, always comparing ourselves to others. Comparing ourselves to others is a natural human thing to do. It's a way for us to figure out our own opinions and what we're good at. But, in our super connected world full of pictures and often perfect looking stories, especially on social media, this habit can become really harmful. We usually talk about 2 kinds of comparison. Looking up, where you compare yourself to people you think are doing better, and looking down, where you compare yourself to those you think aren't doing as well. It's mostly the looking up kind of comparison that causes problems these days. The most harmful thing about looking up to others, especially when it's based on the carefully crafted perfect lives we see on social media, is how it hurts how we see ourselves and our self-worth. We're always seeing other people's best moments, their successes, their dream trips, their seemingly perfect relationships, without seeing what's going on behind the scenes, without seeing the hard times and failures. Seeing things this way often makes us feel like we're not good enough, or jealous, or even a bit resentful. we can end up with a totally twisted view of reality, where our own life seems dull and not good enough compared to these online illusions. In our minds, there are some powerful things happening here. Always seeing these perfect versions of other people's lives can start or worsen feelings of anxiety and sadness. A constant feeling of not being happy settles in because we feel like we're never good enough, never have enough, and never achieve enough. This fuels a never-ending race for approval from others, where our self-worth seems to depend on how we stack up against others, instead of our own values, goals, and personal growth. It's a tiring cycle that pulls us away from our own real happiness. Sadly, there are tons of real-life examples of this. Who hasn't felt a pang of disappointment scrolling through their feed and seeing someone's fancy vacation photos while you're stuck in the daily grind at the office? Or who doesn't compare their career path to an old classmate who seems to be hitting one success after another? This is what's called the highlight reel effect. We compare our everyday lives, with all their ups and downs, to other people's collection of best moments. This habit can even sneak into our real-life interactions, making us more critical of ourselves and taking away our ability to truly appreciate our own experiences. With all these comparisons that can make us feel bad, a really good and helpful idea is to try a partial digital detox. But hey, this isn't about totally quitting technology or social media. Those things have good sides too, you know? It's more about taking back control and setting some clear boundaries for yourself. The main idea is to try and see less of the stuff that makes us compare ourselves and to build a healthier, more balanced friendship with our screens. This is like taking a real step to protect our minds and feelings from the bad stuff that comes from always comparing ourselves to others. But how do you actually do this partial digital detox thing? Well, there are a few different ways you can try. For example, you could start by setting clear time limits for social media apps. Lots of phones already have things like digital well-being, screen time, or other tools to help you control how much you use them. It's also a good idea to clean up who you follow. Unfollow accounts that often make you feel bad or like you're not good enough. Try to fix your feeds so they show you things that inspire you, teach you cool stuff, or just make you feel good. Set up some tech-free times or places, like when you're eating for an hour before you go to sleep, or by choosing not to take your phone into your bedroom. A little no-phone rule like that can really help. You'll start feeling the good things about this pretty fast. You might find that you feel less stressed out and just generally in a better mood when you spend less time just scrolling through stuff. You know, maybe even doom scrolling. You get back precious time for things that make your real life better. Hanging out with friends and family, doing hobbies, playing sports, or just chilling out and relaxing. This also helps you understand yourself better and see your own life and other people's lives more clearly. This helps you stop focusing so much on comparing yourself to others and instead focus on your own growth and liking your own path. To make sure this partial digital detox works for a long time, it's important to go slow. Take it one step at a time, no pressure. Start with small changes that you know you can actually do. Don't think it has to be all or nothing. Try to figure out when or where you most often get caught comparing yourself to others. When you cut down on your screen time, try to fill that extra time with things that make you feel really good or that you think are important. And last but not least, really try to be thankful for all the good things you already have in your life. Keeping a gratitude journal can be amazing for this. It helps you focus on all the good stuff in your own life, instead of always looking at what you think others have that you don't. Next up, a tough enemy inside us. That mean voice that's always putting us down. It's called destructive self-criticism. It eats away at our confidence every chance it gets. It's like a mean judge inside you, always making you feel small. It makes us believe that whenever something goes wrong, it's always our fault. This inner voice often just starts on its own. It's like a slow poison to how good we feel about ourselves. Always putting ourselves down like this really messes with our minds in a big bad way. It makes us feel worthless, ashamed, and guilty all the time. That's a really heavy weight to carry around, and it really weighs us down. The good news is you can quiet down that inner critical voice, or at least make it a lot softer. One of the best ways to do this comes from something called cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT for short. It's called cognitive restructuring. Basically, it's a way that teaches us to spot our negative thoughts. You know, the ones that don't help us, then to check them out and then to change them. Now, the goal isn't to just put on a happy face and lie to yourself. No saying you can do it. if you really don't feel that way. Instead, it's about finding a way to think about yourself that's more fair, more real, and most of all, kinder. You could say it's about learning to be like your own friendly lawyer instead of being your own really tough judge. So, how does this cognitive restructuring thing actually work? It all happens in a few key steps. First, you need to spot that automatic negative thought right when it pops into your head, kind of like catching it red-handed. Jot it down, write it on paper if that helps you. Next, you look at the proof. What real facts actually back up this thought? And just as important, what proof is there that goes against it? Try to be like a detective for your own thoughts. Become the Sherlock Holmes for your own mind. The third step is to figure out the thinking mistakes, or cognitive distortions, as the smart folks call them, that are happening. Is it maybe something called overgeneralization? That's when you think, this happens to me. Or maybe it's black and white thinking, like it's either all good or all bad. Or catastrophizing, where you turn a little problem into a giant disaster. Or how about that classic mind reading, where you think, I just what they're thinking about me. Figuring out these patterns is a really big step. The fourth step, and this one's super important, come up with a different thought. One that's more balanced, more real, and more helpful. And this is key. This new thought has to feel believable too. Don't just try to say the super positive opposite if you don't really feel it. So, instead of thinking, I'm a total loser because I messed up on this test, a different thought could be, okay, I didn't pass this test, and that stinks. But it doesn't mean I'm a failure at everything. I can look at what went wrong, learn from it, and get ready to do better next time. That sounds way different, right? Then, you need to practice. Every time that old mean thought pops up, you switch it with your new, more helpful one. It's like learning anything new. Doing it a little bit each day really helps it stick. You have to remember, cognitive restructuring is a skill. And just like any skill, whether it's riding a bike or playing an instrument, it takes patience and practice, practice, practice. You know what they say? Practice makes perfect. Keeping a thought journal can be super helpful for this. In it, you can write down your negative thoughts, how they make you feel, the thinking mistakes you spot, and then your new, better thoughts. And be nice to yourself while you're doing this. Some days it'll feel easy, and some days it'll feel hard. That's totally okay. Starting something new can be tough. But if you stick with it, and maybe even laugh a little when that inner critic gets really loud, you can really turn down its power. You can feel better about yourself and start having an inner voice that helps you and lifts you up instead of bringing you down. This is a super valuable thing to do for your mental health. It's like a spa day for your soul. Okay, so now let's dive right into a topic that affects a lot of us. Chronic procrastination, especially the kind that's fueled by anxiety. This isn't just about putting off a task now and then because you're not motivated or you're low on energy. No, chronic anxiety-driven procrastination is a much sneakier habit. So, what does it actually look like? It looks like constantly avoiding tasks. And listen, it's not because of laziness. Nope, it's because of a fear. A hidden worry that's so strong that just starting feels almost paralyzing. This type of procrastination can sneak into any part of life. Work, school, relationships. And it becomes a real mental burden. What's the psychology behind it? It's a real vicious cycle. The fear of a task, fear of failure, perfectionism, feeling overwhelmed. That's what makes you avoid it. You put it off, and boom, temporary relief. Phew! Except that just makes the procrastination stronger. Your brain learns avoiding the task equals sign feeling better for a little while. But the real problem is still there. Actually, this quick escape makes the anxiety even worse when the deadline gets closer or the consequences become clearer. You feel even more trapped. And this bad cycle just keeps feeding itself, getting worse over time. Procrastinating leads to a pileup of work, and that makes the original fear even stronger. The more you put things off, the bigger the task seems, and the more your anxiety grows. The result? You feel guilty, ashamed, and your self-esteem takes a hit. You start thinking you're lazy, not good enough, or undisciplined. But really, it's anxiety pulling the strings. This spiral can really mess with your mental health, leading to ongoing stress, generalized anxiety, and even symptoms of depression if you don't do something about it. So, what fears feed this procrastination? There are several, and they're often linked. Fear of not doing well, being scared you're not good enough, or that people will judge you harshly. That can make even starting feel terrifying. Social anxiety can also play a part, especially if the task means working with others or presenting in public. Or sometimes it's a more general fear, a fear of the unknown. that just freezes you up. It often starts small. You keep busy with easier tasks. You're constantly checking your emails or social media. Basically, anything but the important task. Until you're completely stuck facing the very thing you're so afraid of. So how do you beat that procrastination that pops up when you're anxious? It's super easy. The 5-minute rule. Just plan to work on a task for only 5 tiny minutes. That's it. It's a small step, but for your mind, it's a huge relief. 5 minutes? Totally doable and no pressure, right? Every time you start this way, it's a win against that urge to put things off. Alright, let's dive into our 7th bad habit. Information overload and that famous constant multitasking. In today's world, our brains are always getting hit with a ton of information. Information overload. That's when we take in so much stuff that our brain just kind of freezes up. You know, notifications, emails piling up, and like 100 tabs open on your computer. And all this time, we're trying to focus on just one important thing. Getting hit with all this information all the time? It's not natural for our brains. Our brains need breaks to sort things out and really understand them. And we all think we're amazing at multitasking, right? But brain experts say that multitasking isn't really a thing. Our brain is just switching super fast from one thing to another. All that switching back and forth really makes our brains tired. We lose time, we lose brain power. It actually takes up more time and energy than if we just focused on one thing. The stuff we do isn't as good and we make more mistakes. We end up feeling more tired, stressed out, and worried. It feels like you're always on edge, you know? To be creative and figure things out, you need to really focus. The part of our brain that's trying to keep track of everything gets totally overloaded. All this switching back and forth hurts our ability to really concentrate hard. Getting in the zone is super important for doing good work and feeling good about it. By the end of it, our brain is just wiped out and can't work as well. It gets harder and harder to ignore all the things trying to get our attention. We get sidetracked so much more easily, even when we're really trying to focus. So what's the fix for this brain overload we talked about, and this whole idea that we can do a bunch of things at once? Well, it's called monotasking, or you might know it as single tasking. It just means doing one thing at a time. The main idea of monotasking is to really focus on only one job at a time. We give that one job all our attention until it's finished or until it's a good time to stop. A really good trick for this is to use set chunks of time. It's a bit like something called the Pomodoro technique, if you know what that is. The idea is to break your workday into special focus times, where each time is just for one single job, and then you take a 10-minute break before you start the next job. These time blocks really help you stay super focused. Seriously, it's a great way to help clear your head. Before we wrap up, I want to point out something really important. Sometimes these habits can get so overwhelming that it's hard to deal with them by yourself. They can even turn into something unhealthy. Here are 5 warning signs that mean you should think about getting professional help for your mental health. First, symptoms that last for more than 2 weeks. Second, problems that affect many parts of your life. Third, feeling really down or stressed yourself. Fourth, having a lot of negative thoughts about yourself or thoughts about suicide. And fifth, avoiding more than half of your usual activities. In these cases, it's really important to see a psychologist or a psychiatrist. Admitting you need help is a sign of strength. Subscribe to our channel so you don't miss our next videos. Thanks so much for listening. Take good care of yourself and see you very soon.